A community fighting for accountability in July's mass shooting.
Every one of you organizations that has something to do with it, you failed.
Their demands from city agencies that they say failed to protect residents. Gunfire from police as a suspected shoplifter allegedly hits officers with his car. Why some say police overreacted.
They should not have shot at that man, no.
Others think they did nothing wrong.
That's their job.
A Harford County mother murdered 1 month ago. Now her family hires a criminal profiler to help get justice. Why some experts think the suspect is a serial killer.
He will commit the crime again.
This record-breaking heat wave continues into tomorrow. I'm breaking down how dangerously hot it could get, and we will finally get relief.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Tonight, Fox 45 News is demanding accountability when it comes to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting investigation and the juvenile crime issues in Maryland. But we begin with a weather alert. We're seeing record temperatures throughout the region. We're in the middle of a sweltering end of summer heat wave, and it could get hotter before we cool off. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. People are feeling the heat across the state. Let's go right to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers. Jonathan.
Yeah, big heat, and don't be deceived by the fact that there is no heat advisory that's in effect, not yet, for tomorrow, but it's off to our north and east, and I have a feeling that our area will follow suit, with the National Weather Service probably issuing another one of these tomorrow morning for the day tomorrow. Either way, it's going to be very close to or just flat out dangerously hot again into the day on Wednesday. Temperatures already still in the 70s, around 80 degrees, and they're just not falling very fast. Feels still like 86 here in Baltimore. Last hour felt like 91. 90 degrees of real field temperature at Annapolis. We made it to 99 today, breaking another record, day 3 in a row of record heat. And it looks like tomorrow we could do it all over again as we make it to the mid to upper 90s. Forecast high 99 again tomorrow, which would be a record. Could feel as hot as 103 in the afternoon. You're going to have to stay cool. I'm going to let you know when things will finally fall out of the 90s. And it could come at the expense of showers and storms. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. Cooling centers across Baltimore will be open again tomorrow because of the heat. The City Department of Aging is running multiple sites, including the Harford Senior Center and the Sandtown Winchester Senior Center. Those cooling areas are open from 9 in the morning until 7 at night. Now, those who are homeless can cool off at Beans and Bread from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the Housing Authority will open a center for city residents at Cherry Hill Homes in South Baltimore from 8:30 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. Be sure to stay with Fox 45 Morning News. Meteorologist Justin Chambers will track the heat beginning at 4:30 a.m. Tonight, Fox 45 News is pushing for answers as the summer of violence continues in the city. Keith Daniels looks into shots fired during a shoplifting incident, and Mackenzie Frost hears from a mother whose daughter is caught up in juvenile crime. We begin with Jeff Abel with a deep dive into the shooting and the investigation. Jeff?
Well, while the city's own assessment of how it handled this shooting may have been lengthy, tonight the mother of one teenage victim tells us it hardly went far enough.
Every single day we are forced to adjust to living without my daughter.
At a community meeting in West Baltimore tonight, Crystal Gonzalez described her anguish and her anger at a city which she says has failed her.
I just want to say how heartbreaking it is to know how terribly officers have failed my daughter.
Her daughter, 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez, was one of 2 people shot dead during a mass shooting in Brooklyn more than 2 months ago. Last week, the city issued a 173-page assessment of its handling of the shooting and found that the city failed to properly prepare and protect the hundreds of people attending a block party that night.
You all failed. Every one of you organizations that has something to do with it, you failed.
Former NAACP President Marvin Duck Cheatham is calling on Maryland's congressional delegation to request a federal probe of the shooting. There are too many unanswered questions, he says, and still no arrest of those directly responsible.
We are not satisfied with the city patting themselves on the back, writing their own report. We're saying this must not happen again.
We have a job, right?
Right.
To protect and to serve.
That's right.
You showed up to work that day. You did not.
Frustration from the community builds.
You're increasingly seeing members of the community, including parents and relatives who care about these juveniles, as well as victims' families, speaking out, saying that there needs to be accountability until lawmakers get serious about combating this juvenile crime crisis in their communities. You're going to continue to see the same results.
While lawmakers, prosecutors, and leaders all call for more parental accountability,
we tried everything, literally.
This Baltimore mom says she's trying everything.
I worry about my daughter not living till her birthday.
And she says it's the laws that need to change.
I think that's so unfair because it's parents like me who fought and it's asking for help and nobody is doing anything. Stop blaming the parents when things go wrong, when it's clearly a failed system.
The first step towards change could come next week when the House Judiciary Committee holds a hearing to hear from prosecutors as well as the Department of Juvenile Services. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Prosecutors across the state are taking issue with two laws, including the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which prevents children 13 and under from being charged with most crimes. And there's the Child Interrogation Act, which keeps police from questioning juveniles without a parent and attorney present. That brings us to our question of the day. Who do you believe should be held accountable for the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland? Lawmakers, parents, both, or neither? So far, 92% of people who voted say both. You can weigh in right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Baltimore police make an arrest in an apparent shoplifting and getaway attempt in southwest Baltimore today. Police shot at the suspect, they say hit an officer. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us right now with an update on the investigation and reaction from residents who have something else to say. Keith?
Well, Kai, the acting police commissioner, he says at this point he's not sure how many shots were fired. But tonight, one thing is clear, police have an arrest. It's back to business at this 7-Eleven on Wilkins Avenue near Caton Avenue in southwest Baltimore. The evening flow of customers coming and going. But earlier, an alarming break in business. An alleged shoplifting suspect seen in this photo shot at by police after investigators say the man's vehicle hit police officers while he tried getting away. Police quickly released images of the suspect to the public.
And he is considered to be dangerous if anyone runs into him or happens to see him out on the street.
Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley says it unfolded just after 11 a.m. Police were following up on a burglary investigation at a convenience store next door when the officer's attention was drawn to the 7-Eleven, an individual shoplifting. Police say he then got into a black SUV, then struck an officer.
I believe it was the officer, female officer, was struck in the hand by the vehicle as it was fleeing the scene, as they were trying to get the suspect out of the vehicle.
Worley says a second officer experiencing chest pains was taken to shock trauma. In the end, just 6 hours later, the suspect, identified as Alex Huson, caught, arrested in Ellicott City after gunfire.
They overreacted, yes, I'm saying that they overreacted.
That caught customers by surprise.
They should not have shot at that man, no. If you want to shoot at the tires to stop the car, but you want to kill him, because that's what bullets do, right? Because when you shoot a gun and you're a police officer, you're trained to shoot the gun for deadly reasons.
But another customer says police did nothing wrong.
Definitely want them engaged in crime, but I want to see them take care of all of it, you know? I mean, I'd rather they take care of it instead of we being out here taking care of it, you know? I mean, that's what, I'm not gonna say that's what we paid them for, but I mean, that's their job.
Well, police confirm the suspect was neither shot nor injured. He's in jail tonight facing several charges, including attempted first-degree murder. We're live at City Police Headquarters. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, the family of Rachel Morin brings in a criminal profiler to help solve her murder. Why experts say the suspect could be a serial killer. The Maryland Public Service Commission is siding with Baltimore residents when it comes to those external gas meters in the city, what it decided, and what comes next. And right after the break tonight, a debate over term limits in Harford County. We'll hear from both sides of this debate. Well, the Harford County Council introduced a bill tonight to introduce a charter amendment to let voters weigh in on the issue of term limits. The council set a hearing for October 2nd. One councilman is pushing for 8-year limits while others want 12 years. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker takes a closer look.
Harford County Councilman Aaron Penman kicked off a petition drive for term limits Saturday, collecting signatures to get the measure on the ballot for voters in 2024.
Right now, what we have on the county charter is for the county executive has term limits. So he has 2 terms. He can take 1 term off and come back for 2 more terms. I want to apply that same logic to the county council.
But now other council members are introducing competing legislation.
I find it disappointing that legislation is being introduced, in opposition of the petition drive that I started to allow 3 terms.
On the agenda for tonight's meeting, Council Vice President Tony Giangiordano and Council members Riley and Guthrie are introducing their own term limit legislation. According to the bill, no person elected or appointed as a member of the county council shall be eligible for succession in the office of council member after serving in such office for 3 consecutive full 4-year terms.
Really kind of what that does is it really opens it up to be invested, be able to get benefits in retirement aspect as a council member. Currently, after 10 years, you become vested. and you're able to receive 1.5% per year that you have in service.
Penman says the proposed legislation, which doesn't directly mention pensions, seems self-serving. But Councilman Dion Guthrie, who's serving his 13th year, says it's not about pensions.
I don't think that has much to do about it.
He says he doesn't even really support term limits, but this bill is a compromise.
The bill that several of the members wanted to introduce to counter what's being done to be less than that. It could be confusing, but it does give the citizens a choice, and they can vote against both.
It's reminiscent to what happened in Baltimore City after voters overwhelmingly supported implementing term limits on Election Day 2022. Under the plan, the mayor, comptroller, city council president, and council members are now limited to 2 terms over a 12-year period. It spurred Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby to introduce a bill that would allow city leaders to be eligible for a pension after just 8 years of service rather than 12. Mayor Brandon Scott vetoed the bill, saying he couldn't, in good conscience, sign it. In Harford County, Penman is hoping things will go the same way.
If you can't figure it out in 8 years, then you probably can't figure it out anyways.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Now, Maxine mentioned the Baltimore City term limit bill, which passed with 72% of the vote during this past election cycle. Despite the support, Councilman Ryan Dorsey introduced a plan that would put the issue back on the ballot in 2024. Council members Odette Ramos, Danielle McCray, and Christopher Burnett backed the proposal. The Legislative Oversight Committee never held a hearing on it. A spokesperson for the Howard County Public School System says Chief Operating Officer Scott Washington is no longer working for the school system amid ongoing bus issues. The spokesperson didn't say why Washington left or the circumstances surrounding his departure. Howard County school officials are facing backlash after 20 bus routes were suspended last week. The county didn't notify parents until 11 p.m. last Monday night. The county says a new out-of-state bus company didn't have enough drivers to cover the routes. 12 of those routes are back in operation. Baltimore businessman Bob Wallace announces tonight that he's forming an exploratory committee and expects to run for mayor. He ran as an independent candidate in the last election. He's been an outspoken community leader during that time. Mayor Brandon Scott says he plans to run for re-election. Former Mayor Sheila Dixon has also hinted at a mayoral run, but so far, no one else has officially joined the race.
A new poll showing a neck-and-neck race for the White House. What factors are most dividing Biden versus Trump supporters? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look coming up.
The Baltimore County Fire Department is under a consent decree. Why the Department of Justice is involved.
And our heat wave continues another day tomorrow, likely going to be oppressive, if not dangerous. We're going to go 1 on the comfort scale, which, yep, you see what that means there, oppressive heat. So this means, yes, you need to drink lots of water, wear loose, lightweight, and light-fitting or loose-fitting clothing. Also take frequent breaks in the air conditioning, and of course, check on yourself. Make sure you're doing okay, but also check on neighbors and pets and make sure everybody's brought inside in the cooler air conditioning. I'm going to let you know how long you're going to have to really just kind of endure this real high heat. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
And this is a live look at the Inner Harbor downtown as we head to break. Stay with us. 2024 election is 14 months away, and voters are paying close attention to the race for the White House. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman takes us through what could be the deciding factors next November.
In a divided nation, there's understandably a clear line of differences between the top White House contenders, but new numbers show disappointment for President Biden. Donald Trump, now 4 times indicted, twice impeached, and twice having lost the popular vote, is even with the incumbent at 46%, according to the Wall Street Journal, largely due to Biden's age, questions over his mental acuity, and his record, though he's trying desperately to change that.
When the last guy was here, he looked at the world from Park Avenue. I look at it from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Fixing supply chains.
And spending $25 million on ads airing during football games and elsewhere to bolster voters' faith in so-called Bidenomics, even as 58% say the economy's gotten worse under his leadership.
Today, inflation is down to 3%, unemployment the lowest in decades.
The polling data showing Biden may be seen as more honest and more likable, but the age issue a true handicap, 73% saying he's too old compared to only 47% for Trump.
It's not just Republicans, it is Democrats, 7 in 10, who say they're worried.
Anybody with eyes can see that Joe Biden is extremely old.
Many Democrats, too, indicating they don't want Biden as the nominee. But if it does indeed come down to these two, pundits say there could be a shift.
The vast majority of Democrats, almost 100%, very close to it, plus a sizable majority of independents, are simply not going to buy that Donald Trump should be rewarded with another 4 years in the Oval Office.
Timing is also a factor, and Donald Trump could be defending himself in multiple courtrooms just as people are voting. And also critical, the economy. Will it be improving, which would help President Biden, or will it take a turn for the worse? In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Ahead at 10:30, homeowners celebrate a new ruling in the external gas regulator debate in Baltimore, why the Maryland Public Service Commission sided with them and BGE's response. A month after the death of Rachel Morin, her family is bringing in some outside help to search and answers for her murder. We're following three big stories at 10:30 tonight. We're seeing some brutal heat this week in Maryland and really throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is tracking the temperatures. A month after Rachel Morin was murdered in Harford County, her family is bringing in a criminal profiler to help solve the case. Why experts believe, some of them, that the suspect could be a serial killer. And it's a big win for homeowners in Baltimore as the Maryland Public Service Commission says it's up to residents to decide where those gas meters are installed.
Bottom line, the choice is yours of what you want. That is what we've been fighting for, and that is what we earned today.
Well, it comes after months of back and forth between BGE and city residents after hundreds of Baltimoreans signed on to a lawsuit to stop the utility work. Fox 45's Amy Simpson has the latest.
Today, a decision months in the making.
This morning, we scored a major victory.
The Maryland Public Service Commission, which regulates utility companies statewide.
We're here because something has gone terribly awry with your program.
Weighing in on BGE's gas pressure regulators, saying residents get to decide for themselves, inside or out.
Bottom line, the choice is yours of what you want. That is what we've been fighting for, and that is what we earned today.
BGE adamant for several months that gas pressure regulators need to be installed outside of homes for safety reasons. The utility work part of its project to transition to a high-pressure gas system in Baltimore City. But residents started pushing back, upset about torn-up streets and sidewalks, angry about holes being drilled into their homes, concerned about the safety of this gas equipment so close to the road, feeling like their voices were falling on deaf ears. In June, our cameras were rolling as 3 women were arrested for protesting the utility work in historic Federal Hill, alleging the company was strong-arming residents into the construction, faced with the option to get an outside regulator or have gas service shut off altogether. Their charges have since been dropped. The Public Service Commission today also ruling that declining an exterior regulator is not a valid reason to shut off or threaten to shut off service.
When you organize, when you come together, you can stand up to bullies.
But even with the definitive ruling from the Public Service Commission, the class action lawsuit against BGE not being dropped by several hundred Baltimoreans.
We're not done.
Homeowners say they're planning to amend the suit, now looking for a remedy for the homes forced to have external regulators against their will, and wanting to be sure BGE complies with today's order from the Public Service Commission.
We just want to make sure they actually do it. And until we see in writing that BGE has adopted the spirit and substance of what the commission has ordered them to do, we're not in a position to just trust them that they will do the right thing.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
In a statement to Fox 45 News today, BGE said the safety of their customers drives every decision they make. The company says it stands by its recommendation that outdoor gas regulators are a safer option. The utility company thanked the Maryland Public Service Commission for allowing customers to choose. It's important to note that today's ruling from the PSC applies to single-family homes. Any building with 6 or more units is required to have external regulators. The Baltimore County Fire Department has entered into a consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice. That decree is the result of charges saying that the department violated the rights of its employees by subjecting 11 female employees to a hostile work environment. The complaint was filed in 2017. Under the terms of the decree, the department will create new DOJ-approved policies and complaint investigation processes, among other things. The county will also pay $275,000 to those 11 employees. It comes on the heels of a vote of no confidence from the Baltimore County Fire Union after a 16-page report outlined a, quote, toxic work environment with the lack of respect, trust, and consistency.
It's concerning in that because the public may not always be in the best care that we could if we were doing additional training.
Well, Fire Chief Joanne Runn was the only one to survive the vote. Union members overwhelmingly delivered a no confidence vote against the assistant chief and deputy fire chief. A 19-year-old and 2 juveniles are facing charges for multiple shootings in Aberdeen. According to police, 19-year-old Jameer Jones and a 17-year-old were responsible for multiple gang-related shootings. In one of the shootings, the pair is accused of opening fire on a family in front of their home, hitting the family's car and the front of their house, and firing a bullet into a room where a mother and baby were resting. The 17-year-old is being charged as an adult. It's been a month since Rachel Morin was murdered along the Monpah Trail in Harford County, and tonight her family is turning to a criminal profiler for help.
I think everybody, myself included, in the family had hoped that somebody would be apprehended by now.
When they do get attacked while they're walking or jogging on a biking trail or a walking trail, I would say 100% of the time it's a serial killer.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports that expert and authorities now say the suspect could be a serial killer.
1 month ago today, a deadly discovery made along the Monpah Trail, shaking Bel Air's quiet, tight-knit community.
This is horrific, shocking.
It's scary.
I think everybody's waiting answers.
And devastating the family of Rachel Morin, whose search for answers becomes more dire each day.
We don't have any clue where he could be.
The Harford County Sheriff's Office telling Fox 45 they're now looking for leads in Chicago, but declined to explain why.
This DNA evidence has come back as a match.
This after investigators already revealing DNA from Rachel's crime scene, a match for an unsolved home invasion and assault taking place in Los Angeles, California earlier this year. However, the only images released of the suspect, surveillance video of his back turned and face covered.
The picture is not that great.
In lieu of a visual depiction, the father of Rachel's oldest child, Matthew McMahon, requesting a written description from professional criminal profiler Pat Brown.
So when they look at that profile, they can start identifying it with that person that much more.
I feel very strongly about this. A bullet point profile should go out to the public.
With 30 years of experience under her belt, Brown penning a list of the perpetrator's presumed characteristics, describing him as a psychopath who likely has ties to the area.
Bel Air is 40 miles north of Baltimore. You don't just roll in there on a bus for no reason. He has to know somebody that he came to stay with in Bel Air.
Both Brown and the sheriff also sounding the alarm. The man responsible could be a serial killer.
And this is why it's so important for the community to identify this man, because he will commit the crime again.
Brown's profile now printed onto this flyer, which the Morin family plans to place around town, hoping it generates new leads.
To please carefully examine the profile, read everything.
From anyone who can keep this case from going cold.
We only need one tip, and we can save other lives, and we can bring justice to Rachel, her family, and her children.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
According to police, the suspect pictured on the left side of your screen is about 5 feet 9 inches tall, 160 pounds, and of Hispanic descent. In terms of finding a DNA match, one law enforcement expert believes detectives will use sites like Ancestry.com to find a potential distant relative of the suspect.
Like a cousin or a second cousin or a third cousin. And then that investigator has a lead to work from, knowing that they have a second or third cousin. And then they start making phone calls and, do you know so-and-so? Have you heard from so-and-so?
Well, the reward for anyone with information leading to an arrest has recently gone up to $10,000. If you'd like to leave a tip, you can contact the Harford County Sheriff's Office or Metro Crime Stoppers. Prince George's County Police have suspended Officer Francesco Marlette following a social media video depicting him kissing a woman at a park near a school. The video in question was shared on TikTok Monday, appearing to show the officer kissing the woman before they entered the back seat of his car. Prince George's County Police say this is an ongoing investigation, and they will provide an update when they have more information. Taking a look right now at the Fox box on the top left, the former national chairman of the Proud Boys is sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for his role in the January 6th Capitol riots, the longest January 6th sentence to date. He's accused of being the ringleader of the plot to use violence to overturn the 2020 election. On the top right, the U.S. deficit will likely rise to about $2 trillion, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. This after falling from $3 trillion to $1 trillion last year, the largest decline ever. The increase is a result of higher interest rates and payments on reduced tax revenue. On the bottom left, millions of parents will face additional child care challenges as federal funding is set to run out this month. Tens of thousands of daycare programs could close. Politico reports that Democratic lawmakers are seeking $16 billion in funding, but are unlikely to get it as Republicans work to cut back on federal spending. The White House says more than 4 million people have enrolled in President Biden's student loan repayment plan. The SAVE plan is an income-driven repayment plan launched earlier this year.
SAVE is the most affordable repayment plan ever and will save millions of borrowers money on their monthly payments.
Republicans have criticized the plan, saying it's unfair to Americans without student loan debt. They argue it will also encourage more people to take on debt. A group of Republican lawmakers have introduced a resolution looking to end the program, though President Biden would almost certainly veto that measure.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, the latest uptick in cases of COVID-19 reigniting the debate over the effectiveness of masks.
And if you were thinking of getting some yard work done over the next couple of days, you may want to wait. Still lots of highs well into the 90s, even records dropping potentially tomorrow. But I'll let you know when temperatures drop into the 80s. Finally, that's in my Weather Authority forecast.